Question 1. What is a record? Answer. Records are the outputs that detail each and every business and administrative transaction of the university and contain information about our students, members of staff and all our external contacts. They are the essential resource for the university's effective continuation. They also form the university's collective memory that must be available beyond the memory or working life of any single member of staff. A document in itself is a type of record, but so is the information that describes the document when it forms a separate entity. For example, an entry in a library catalog, whether on card or in a computer database, which records the author, title and location of the book, is as much a record as the book itself. Question 2. What is records management? Answer. Records management is a process for the systematic management of all records and the information or data that they contain. Traditionally, these were held on paper or more recently on microfilm or fiche, but are now held increasingly within electronic systems. The core concept is the life cycle of information, which sees information having a series of phases from creation to final disposition, either through a controlled destruction process or being added to the long-term or permanent record. The archive of the university. Records management incorporates the practice of identifying, classifying, providing access to, archiving, and sometimes the controlled destruction of records. Question 3. Should electronic records be treated any differently to paper-based records? Answer. No. The principles underlying records management, creation, retention, identification, and retrieval of records apply equally to both electronic and paper records. This means that procedures for email and information held on shared and personal hard drives have to be as robust and detailed as those for other records. Question 4. How does records management relate to the Freedom of Information Act? Answer. Poor records management is not of itself a breach of the Act, but the Act did stress that good records management is essential to the process of responding to requests. The Act sets out strict timetables for compliance with a request, so it makes sense to have systems in place that help to ensure such timetables are adhered to with minimum effort. If the university fails to satisfy an inquiry either in what it supplies or how it deals with the inquirer, then appeals can be made to the Information Commissioner, who can impose requirements on the university. Good records management will assist in avoiding such circumstances arising. Question 5. How does records management relate to the Data Protection Act? Answer. The Data Protection Act applies to personal information relating to living individuals. The gathering, storage, and processing of that data has to conform with a number of principles, including its gathering and retention for specific purposes, the secure retention of the data, the ability to recover it when a data subject submits a request, and ensuring that it is kept for no longer than is necessary for the purpose for which it is held. Good records management policies and procedures will ensure that there is compliance with the Act. Question 6. What is a records retention and disposal schedule? Answer. A records retention and disposal schedule is a control document that sets out the periods for which an organization's business records should be retained to meet its operational needs and to comply with legal and other requirements. It forms a key element of the university's records management policy. It consists of timetables that set out when individual or groups of records are due for review, transfer to an archive, and/or destruction. In response to compliance with current legislation, for example the Freedom of Information Act 2000, they make it easier to establish whether or not a record exists when a request is received. Using such schedules will also give the public confidence that the university has adequate procedures for identifying records that have been requested. Question 7. Why is a records retention and disposal schedule necessary? Answer. A records retention and disposal schedule is an essential component of an efficient and effective records management system, properly developed and consistently implemented. A records retention and disposal schedule protects the interests of the organization and its stakeholders by ensuring that business records are kept for as long as they are needed to meet operational needs and to comply with legal requirements, and are then disposed of securely. Question 8. What does a records retention and disposal schedule cover? Answer. A record retention and disposal schedule provides generic guidance on retention of records which are commonly generated in the course of core work, developing relationships with stakeholders, the management of the institutions themselves as corporate bodies. It covers key groups of records generated by the common business functions and business activities. In the case of the university, these will include student records, financial records, personnel records, health and safety records, etc. The schedule being used for records management at the university is based on research and consultation with a wide range of institutions. However, it is not intended to be either totally prescriptive or exhaustive. A certain amount of individual judgment will still have to be made in dealing with some records. By the very nature of retention and disposal schedules, it is essential that records are dated and that they are filed or stored in some manner that identifies the date or, at a minimum, the year of creation. The schedules will then advise as to how many years after that date the records should be retained for before disposal. For example, current academic year plus 5 years or life of course plus 1 year. There can be some confusion as to whether year relates to the UK fiscal year, the university financial year, the academic year, or the calendar year. Some record sequences relate directly to an academic year, whether that starts on the 25th of September or the 28th of September or the 1st of October, depending on which date is a Monday. In the event of the schedule stating that the academic year records can be disposed of after, for example, 3 years, it is advisable to take this to be after the end of the calendar year, 3 years after the end of the academic year.